Hello, crypto boys and ghouls, and welcome back to the channel, Tales from the Cryptmancer, where we feature content on play and earn games on the blockchain, such as Splinterlands. And in today's video, I wanted to have a discussion around Soulbound reward cards and the future of the game. And this is coming out of a announcement that happened on this morning's earlier town hall with Matt and the Splinterlands team talking about a new proposal potentially to bring in Soulbound reward cards, which is a pretty big change to the game here. And this might be coming to the game in December or January timeframe. So very quickly here. And this is kind of the first we're hearing of this. And I want to just kind of recap and play a small portion of the town hall where Matt discussed this concept so we can understand the concept before kind of dissecting what this might mean for the game. And I'm going to give you a couple hot takes as well coming out of this discussion. So stay tuned.
So the whole reward card system in the game is something that was added relatively hastily, and I don't think works quite well. I think a lot of people agree with that. There's way too many of them, and one of the if we make there fewer of them, like fewer the total mint amount, then we run into the problem where we just have to keep releasing new ones all the time, and then there's all these new cards flooding the game, and that's a problem too. So we kind of took a step back, which is what we've been doing more recently, not just rushing out like, oh, there's a problem, let's rush out a fix. Take a step back and really think through the whole thing. So I want to preface before I talk about the changes we're planning. I want to talk about why we're planning them and where we're coming from. So to me, I think we've seen over the last year or so the failures in the traditional play to earn model. We don't want it to make like any situation where like everyone's coming into the game and looking at what's my ROI every month, how much can I sell, how much can I extract from the game. That's gonna not be sustainable. That's not the type of game we want to build. Ultimately, what we want to build is a game where everyone who comes in, they're it's just like a traditional game. People don't come into traditional games and they just like look at how much can I earn and take out every month. It's a game that they enjoy and they plan to play and build up their account and grow things for years. So where that applies to reward cards is what we're planning to do is release an entirely new set of reward cards that are going to be soul bound, similar to the gladiator cards. So the idea is that we don't have a bunch of bots or whoever just coming in and earning reward cards and just dumping them all on the market. So we have these cheap, almost worthless cards that everyone can get. And one of the reasons also is because for me personally, like I make sure to play the game, but I don't have tons of time to play the game. And typically when new reward cards come out, I wait a week and then I go buy max level versions on the market for relatively cheap. And then I have very little incentive to actually keep playing more, right? And that to me is a problem because I consider myself one of like one of the key demographics for this game. Like if I don't have that much incentive myself to keep playing and earning, that's a problem. So by changing reward cards to be soul bound, um, now by playing more, I can't just go buy the cards on the market, a week later after they're released at max level. I have more incentive to play because there are things that I can earn that I can't get any other way. So if I want to build up my account, if I want to be the best, or I'm definitely not going to be the best, but higher on the leaderboards at least, and leagues, I'm going to need to play more and earn these cards. Then there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of details around that, right? So some of the things are, players at the top level, even though they're earning more reward cards, they're having higher chance of getting the higher rarity ones and gold ones. But how are they gonna, get 400 common cards of each of the common cards to get them to the max level? So we can do things like when you open a chest with a common card, it may have 5 copies of them or 10 or whatever the numbers are. So that's one way. We can look at the amount of time it should reasonably take people at different levels of play to max these cards, and we can adjust, how many they receive based on that. And then a second thing we thought about is when players, especially the top players, are eventually going to max out these cards, and it may be before there's a new set of them available. We were thinking that they would be able to be burned for DEC, but only after a player has a max level version of the card. So once you've already maxed out the card, any more you get could be burned for DEC or potentially used for other purposes. There's going to be land and potentially guild buildings and all that stuff. Um, but that's what we're kind of thinking about and planning to do there. And I think that's a much more like long-term, sustainable, better method for doing reward cards. And I think it'll make actually getting higher leagues in the game so much more important for regular players, and also it'll help address low level bots significantly, because it will be much more valuable to level up and get to the higher leagues to get those better cards for your account, in order to continue to be able to play better, by having those cards available.
So, what we just heard there was really just the next in line of a long line of economy and game changes that are being introduced to basically fight bot farms. And I would argue that when Matt is talking about bots farming reward cards and dumping them on the market, he's not specifically talking about a player using, for example, a service like Splintermade or Archmage or Xbot, to run your own card assets instead of renting. But he's rather talking about bot farms with thousands or tens of thousands of accounts that are set to simply farm reward cards and SPS and then dump those on the market for the purpose of extracting profit from the ecosystem. With that being said, I want to first state and be very clear on the fact that I fundamentally like the idea here being proposed with Soulbound reward cards. I do think it fixes several issues in the current reward card structure that are problematic, and I think it's a step in the right direction. Matt already discussed in the town hall about the many benefits this would provide to real Splinterlands players, so I don't want to rehash that here in this video. But what I do want to do is identify two potential areas of concern and then provide my opinion on what I believe would be a big step forward and be more impactful change for the game itself. Now, the first area of concern on this new proposal that I have would be the introduction of a new faucet for DEC just when we closed one of the last major DEC faucets, and that being the DEC LP rewards. Now, granted, this new faucet would likely be small in that you would have to earn Soulbound cards to max level before burning for DEC, and you couldn't buy, delegate, or send soul cards across accounts, so you would likely need to spend a good amount of time farming the reward cards before even being eligible to burn them. But burning them eventually would be a faucet for DEC here. And, we want to try and avoid introducing DEC faucets into the game, especially when we've been so focused on removing them from the game. Now, secondly, if reward cards become soulbound, players, and especially new players, from a purely play and earn perspective, are having another earning aspect of the game nerfed for them in reward chests. And this is basically, you now have merits, potions, and now reward cards as non-monetary assets that you're getting in the game. And DEC has already been removed from the reward chest. So that basically just leaves staked SPS as the only remaining earning asset or mechanism in Splinterlands. Now, that puts huge sell pressure on SPS long term, as that is the only way for players to extract value or earn from the game moving forward. Now, with little to no utility for the SPS token today, this is definitely bad for SPS value and appreciation. And I don't want to minimize this point because I think it's very important. Now, if you compare this to Axie Infinity, for example, it's basically making the Splinterlands SPS token the equivalent to Axie's SLP token, which is continuously dumped and has only declined in value over time. Now, at its high, Axie's SLP token was worth 36 cents each, and now it's worth 0.002 cents each, making it have a loss of value of over 99% in just like the last year alone. Now, this is the future of SPS, in my opinion, if the token has no utility, and it is basically the only way for players to earn or extract value from a play and earn ecosystem. And I think that's obviously not good. Now, the other piece of this particular puzzle of essentially removing a core play and earn mechanic from the game, that being reward cards that you could sell or trade, is now you really no longer have a play and earn game. You just have a game that needs to compete with other mobile and PC games on the market. And if Splinterlands is going head to head with AAA titles from a pure gameplay perspective, we've already lost. Let's be honest. I mean, this game does not compare to other games from a pure gameplay perspective. Now, that being said, let's talk about the real elephant in the room that no one wants to address. And that is, why is Splinterlands looking to even make this change with reward cards? Well, Matt clearly comes out and says it to everyone. It's that bot farms are farming reward cards in mass, dumping them on the market, driving down their value, and basically creating problems for the ecosystem as they extract value from the ecosystem and cause more reward cards to having to continue to be created and repeating the cycle here. And this is the main reason for this proposed change. Now, we've all probably been in conversations discussing about technically how the game could fight bots as well as the team's stance on being bot neutral. But I've got to tell you, I'm with Weirdbeard here and believe that this is an untenable position for Splinterlands to take. You can't be the owner and operator of the game and be neutral on such a decisive and game impacting topic. Now, since the team is admitting to mistakes recently, such as the Chaos Legion pack numbers, the overhiring of development and other resources for the game, unfocused development being done in different areas, now is really the perfect time to admit and correct another big mistake, and that is bot neutrality. The team needs to agree that bot farms, and the emphasis here being on the word farms, are not a value add to the ecosystem, and the team has been bending themselves into human pretzels trying to address the problem while in turn making the game experience worse for us human players in the process. So rather than discussing how we could technically limit or ban bot farms, that's just not a productive conversation. Let's discuss the core difference between a bot farm and a human player. A human player is a single person and has an identity. A bot farm, on the other hand, is many, many accounts owned and operated by essentially a single person or entity. And therein is the big difference and deal here that makes bot farms, well, bad for our game and our ecosystem. So how do you stop the farming of reward cards in mass and come up with a print rate of the reward cards moving forward that actually fits the player base that actually is playing the game and would use those cards and would make the resale value in line with the value of those cards? Well, the answer and the solution is actually quite simple. So simple, it's right in front of us, but it's so controversial that no one wants to talk about it. And the answer is simply KYC. Now, if you want to earn within Splinterlands on an account, I would put out the proposal that you need to KYC said account. Now, KYC, for those that don't know, means know your customer. It's basically validating that you are a unique person and individual. And once that's validated, you could then earn and play in the game. Now, if you KYC your account in the game, you have one person equals one account able to earn. It's a simple requirement and a simple fix to many of the ails of our game. Now, many might say this is treacherous, conspiratist talk or completely against crypto norms. And how could you, Tails? This is terrible. What are you talking about? But I would counter and ask you this question. Do you use a central exchange today to be able to deposit and withdraw fiat and crypto? And I believe the answer for many across the world here is yes. And the reason why this is done for central exchanges to identify you as a real person and a real customer, well, is honestly to prevent fraud and money laundering primarily, but it's also the same reason that Splinterlands should ask you to do the same if you want to be able to deposit and withdraw crypto from the Splinterlands ecosystem. One of the things that Agrode has been quoted as saying in the past, and it's certainly true, is that Splinterlands has minted millionaires. And I would say that if you've made $1 million from Splinterlands and others want to earn $1 million from Splinterlands, or if you're one of those millionaires and you want to continue earning millions of dollars in Splinterlands, well, it's a simple request to KYC if that continues the process and the success of this game. It shouldn't be that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. Now, I know it's controversial, but there it is. It is a simple solution to a complex problem that, if you really sit and think about it, um, really answers a lot of the issues that bot farms have been really plaguing this game with. Now, you may not like the answer, but it ultimately is an answer that addresses so many problems that we face. And if we simply ignore the easiest answer to the problem and get on with making this game great and moving forward, well, the sooner that can happen, honestly, the better. Now, if Splinterlands, is it brave enough to make this tough decision necessary to perhaps save their game? Are you, as a player, willing to confirm you are a real person in order to have the game continue and provide you economic gains? Is that something that is worth the economic gains that Splinterlands could offer you if this was done? I mean, that's a personal question, but I think for many, if you really sit down and think about it, saying that you're a human and a real person, well, it's something that we do every day in life when we report to our job or do anything. We are a real person. We are really here. And that should be verifiable, whether you show up to your job in person or you go into Splinterlands and KYC one time to verify you are real. Well, time will tell if Splinterlands looks at this as a solution and moves forward. But I believe the conversation needs to be had because, again, it does solve so many problems here. And really, we need to stop bending ourselves into human pretzels and suffering in the game because of it, because we're not able to address the elephant in the room and move past it and come up with a solution that is not only technically viable, but just makes sense. So that's it for my spicy take today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And until next time, keep stacking those stats.